Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you again from another week where we have seen a lot of changes going on out there in the world, in our country, and especially for the purpose of this channel on the Appalachian Trail. Let's go ahead and talk about some of those changes out there. So first, for our country, as you know, we've got the illness going around, and right now we are at over 125,000 people that have been infected with we hit today over 2,300 and folks that have died from it. And those are updated just from this morning to now. It's about 3 o'clock, or no, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So, and all those were updated from yesterday. So it changes, of course, every hour, but the stats, it just keeps climbing and climbing, and we haven't hit the apex yet. We're not coming down. Our curve is steepening, and this is a graph here that was on the 26th, so that's 3 days ago. So you can see that 3 days ago we were just around 85 plus, and now we're already over 125 plus. So that's a graph that is not a good looking graph. Italy, they have over 10,000 dead, and that was as of last night. So who knows what that is now. On the positive side, though, their daily death rate has been coming down, as has the state of New York. New York City is considered the U.S. epicenter for this illness, and that their rate is coming down. It used to be that they had a rate that was doubling infected people every 2.3 days. 2 days ago it had gone to 4, and now it's gone to 6. So according to the mayor, according to Governor Cuomo up there, they hadn't necessarily gotten to the peak, to the apex, and going downhill, but those are the stats of where things are going. So there is some positive stuff going, but they're still in deep trouble up there. They're still building more hospitals, still more people coming in. We had an executive order that went out again today. Those seem to be dropping like flies, that the president signed, that he could order retired military back to service, particularly those that are healthcare workers. So we are starting to get in dire need, particularly in New York State, of healthcare workers. More and more getting sick and having a quarantine, and so it's not looking good up there, and that is steadily moving south, particularly around Louisiana, and that was around Louisiana probably due to Mardi Gras that they had 2 weeks before all this stuff hit the fan. And then Spain had 800 people that died over the 24-hour period. So Spain is also pretty bad, but right now the U.S. has more infected people than anywhere else in the world, surpassing all other countries. So that's kind of what's changed in the world for folks that have not been keeping track out there. Things are changed for the trail. Well, Amicola State Park Visitor Center has closed. So that means there is nobody checking in. There's no registrations through there. Of course, as we reported on last week's video, they stopped giving bag tags out over a week ago, but now there's nobody even checking in. And as a matter of fact, there's nobody checking in at any ATC visitor centers because they're all closed. So Harper's Ferry, Monson, all those are closed. Online registrations have been stopped, and the online registrations that were previously done have been taken down. So right now they're showing no registrations for 2020. So all that data has been wiped out, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just like it didn't exist, but it's not there anymore. All AT shelters and privies have been closed all the way up the trail. All trailheads in Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee have been closed. Graham County, North Carolina is not allowing non-residents into the county. So they have set up roadblocks. They are checking folks. Unless you have a permit or you are a resident there, even if you have a vacation home, they're not letting you there. So you have to be a resident of the county. There's, of course, Graham County is right there at Fontana, and the Smokies are closed, so there's nowhere to go once you get to Fontana. All the lodging is closed there, and the Fontana Hilton shelter is closed. All national forest trailheads in Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee are closed. So, some of those that you may recognize: Way Bald in the Nantahala National Forest, Chilwell Bald, Max Patch, Roan Mountain at Carver's Gap, Lover's Leap, and all those in the Cherokee and the Pisgah National Forest, all those have been closed at the trailheads. Of course, the Smokies, they are closed, and they are closed to no hiking at all. So you can't even use the trails there. There was some misinformation that went out on some other websites earlier this week, but in some Facebook groups, I called the backcountry office, and they verified that indeed you cannot hike at all in the Smokies. And the ranger there said that this is happening at all national parks, and it's working its way up. And the only reason it took this long is because each superintendent of each park has to request it. So they kind of work separate from each other. They're all under the same government umbrella, but they all work a little separate from each other, and it just takes time for that to work its way through the system. The shanties are closed to backcountry camping, so right now you can hike in them, but you cannot camp in the backcountry. And then the borough of Hamburg, Pennsylvania, they have closed approximately 10 miles of the trail on the Hamburg Reservoir watershed lands to public access. So you can't go through on those trails at all either. So you'll have to shuttle around. And then, of course, Baxter State Park is closed. Katahdin Trail System is closed. Of course, it's not typically open this time of year because Katahdin Trail System, getting up there to it, usually doesn't open till sometime in May, mid-May. But in this case, there's nobody there to check in folks that might be there for winter camping or winter backpacking, and that's closed indefinitely. So there's no staff that are on hand there to check people in at all. Don't know when that's going to change. So it's now impossible to hike legally on the AT in Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. And that's because the order to do so says the trailheads are closed. Now, it doesn't say anything about the trails. So I know some people are thinking, well, we'll just go around the trailheads. I'm not sure that's really legal either, but I haven't seen anything that says it's illegal. The only problem with that is that it violates leave no trace principles, for one thing, because you're supposed to access the trail and hike on the trail and the trailheads. So by you hiking somewhere other than on the trailhead, you're disturbing the wilderness area more so than it should be. And then also a lot of these trailheads just kind of get down to the gap or wherever they come out, and there's a very short trail corridor there because it's going across private property to get you back up to where the national forest is or the national park is or what have you. So you're actually walking across private property in a lot of those places, a lot of those trailheads. And so eventually people could say, we don't want you walking on our private property anymore because you start cutting new trails on it or leaving trash or what have you. And another thing I'm thinking about is that, okay, they shut down the trailheads because there's so many people, there's nothing to do in town anymore. Everything in towns are shut down. So they've closed the trailheads to prevent that from happening because as you can see, people were parking everywhere and there was just no way to keep a proper social distancing away from each other. Another thing is they had to shut down the trailheads because everybody was out there. There's nothing going on in town, and so everybody was congregating around the trailheads and starting off. There were just so many people more used than the trailheads are used to seeing. So that was another reason why they shut them down. And it's just, the trail's only one person wide. So every time you step off the trail, you're possibly damaging, the wilderness area. They want you to stay on the trail, but with so many people on there and you having to walk, supposed to stay 6 feet away from each other, now you're creating two paths where there was only one. So you're damaging that trail, creating more possibilities for washouts and just overall damage in general. All the shelters in privies and national park lands, they're closed. You can camp near them, those that allow you backcountry camping. You can camp near the shelters, but you cannot camp in them. And most states have a shelter-in-place order now. So I don't think, and I haven't heard of where they're really enforcing these from law enforcement. I don't think they're going to lock you up certainly not advocating you get out there and stay on the trail because of that, but I don't think they are. Talked to several law enforcement officers, and they say, look, we don't arrest anybody. We're trying to clear the jails out. We're trying to keep people out. And right now is not the time to have a huge population in the jail, because if this got into the jail system, this illness, then it would definitely, there would be a lot of problems out there. So if it got in there, the jail system, and then the people getting out brought it back out in the community, well, I mean, you can see how that would just spread like wildfire throughout the community. You cannot legally spend the night on the AT in Maryland, that's 40 miles, or Massachusetts, that's 90 miles, or the Shenandoah National Park, so that's 100+ miles. And something else is a problem, or getting to be a bigger problem every day, is that your opportunities for getting off the trail, should you just get to the point where you can't get off, they've shut down shuttles, they've shut down motels, you got no place to go, that is rapidly closing in. And as this virus gets worse and worse, those opportunities are gonna get worse and worse. They're already pretty bad. Flights from popular airports around the trail, like up in Virginia around Roanoke, Allegiant, which is a low-cost carrier, they've quit flying there altogether. Americans cut down their flights. They only got like 3 flights going out of Roanoke now a day, and whereas they used to have over twice that. So, and all the airlines are following suit, and as more and more people do this, and the less and less people are flying, and the airlines get more and more strapped for money and funds, they're going to be shutting down more and more of their flights. So getting back home, the further north you go, is getting more and more difficult. So what kind of channel changes do I have going on? Well, I'm not going to be doing any more hiker registration stats, because those are meaningless now. The ATC has stopped taking registrations. Amicalola Falls, like I said, State Park is closed. They quit taking bag tags, or quit giving out bag tags over a week ago. And the state park's not closed, but the visitor center's closed. So there's nobody registering in, nobody checking you in for your hike. And then there's no registrations online. They've actually taken down all the registrations of people that had registered. So there's 0 people registered this year, according to their website. I'm going to no longer be updating hiker positions. There's just been a lot of negativity going on out there, and those folks that have done that, then that's just wrong. You shouldn't be doing that, not as part of the hiker community. And so I'm not going to be telling people where, I never told people exactly where they were, but people had a general location. So I've actually had hikers tell me they're worried about their safety. So I'm not going to be updating where hikers are. I'm also taking down that Google spreadsheet that had all the hiker social media accounts on it, because people could use that to go back and find their social media accounts, and they could use that to go to it and just spit their venom at people like's been going on out there. And I'm not going to be a party to that, and my channel's not going to be a party to that. This illness is bad enough without the hiker community becoming so splintered like it has. I've never thought in my wildest days, 1, what will go on with this illness, but 2, what will go on in this hiker community. I mean, for 2 years I've been a part of it, and the whole time I've looked at it as my favorite community of all time, that somewhere I could go to that always got positivity. It was all inclusive. Everybody was the same. You never saw all this negative content coming out. Negative comments mainly is what it is. It's not negative content. I've seen very little negative content, other than there's been some content that has been put out that's negative toward, I've had some at me and some toward other hikers. And that's got to stop. And so I've taken that offline, so there's no access to that anymore. I know a lot of you have asked me for access through email here since I took it off last night, and that will not be coming back in its current form. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to all come back together after this is over with. I don't know, those wounds are going to take a long time to heal. It's just it's just heart-wrenching to see that happen in this hiker community. I mean, my heart aches for these thru hikers that have had to come home, that have gotten off the trail to help out with this, to prevent this virus from continuing to spread. I know you've sacrificed, and believe me, I thank you from the bottom of your heart. I also thank you from the bottom of my heart of folks that have, particularly thru hikers, who have sent me all these positive comments. A lot of them have been through private message, but telling me that they appreciate the last video that I did, helped them make a decision. And they got off trail, and I greatly appreciate you letting me know and giving me that kind of feedback. It's not just me. This channel has always been about hiker community, and so there's other folks out there that send me information from time to time that I include. Please keep that up. But it's a joint effort, in my opinion. So it's not about me. It's about the hiker community. So, since I've changed this channel so much, how am I going to support thru hikers? Well, I've already been doing that, and I'm doing that hiker to hiker, person to person. I've had numerous hikers that have sent me a text and, hey, we need your help. Do we need your help? We need to find a shuttle here. All the shuttles shut down. Can you help us out? And so I'm doing that. There's been some that have said, hey, we can't get around this particular area. Can you help us out with that? I've done that. Hikers that are still updating me, I give them the intel of what's going on up the trail. Hey, you got this closure coming on. You got this going on. And so I've been able to do that. So I'm still actively helping and supporting hikers. You don't see it because it's not happening out here visually through this channel, but it's happening person to person and me to tramleys out there. So I want to keep that up. If I hadn't been helping you and you haven't contacted me and you need help, please know that I'm a resource for you. It's not going to get put out there where you're at or even what's going on with you. And certainly not going to name you or anything like that. So please feel free to contact me. I'll help you as much as I possibly can. I've been helping some people with shuttles. Those shuttles are becoming harder because people are shutting down, but also areas are shutting down. So around the knock right now, you got they're shutting down the roads around there. They're not going to allow people just to get out and drive around. And that's the knock at Nantahala River. And then in Graham County, you got to have a special permit to get out and drive around. And you've got to be a resident. So if you're somewhere trying to come into Fontana, they've got roadblocks up. They're patrolling the trailheads. You're not supposed to be there. So they're going to be getting you out of that county there. So those are ways I'm helping hikers. If I can be of help to you, love to help you out. That's what I enjoy doing most is helping people. As I said in my last video, and all the ATC and the ALDA and the CDC, Darwin and Odie and just everybody out there has indicated that you do not need to be on the trail. But that being said, I'm not about to abandon anybody out there. That's not what I'm about. And so you have a resource in me. Please use that if I could be of any assistance at all. It's in that service and knowing that I'm helping people that where I draw from my positivity and override whatever negativity is out there. Fortunately, I didn't have a lot of negativity directed at me. I can probably count on one hand the negative folks that have said something against me. But it's been running rampant through this hiker community, and I'm appalled and heartbroken to see what's been going on. One of the things that we need to instill each other is that there is hope. The trails have not been shut down in their entirety. Of course, it's kind of hard to access them without access them through a trailhead, and we've talked about leave no trace and how that's incorrect, but nobody said that they're going to be shut down for 6 months or for the rest of the year. So there's still hope that thru hikers out there can finish their hike within the year. And I'm hoping personally that the ATC is going to lift that and make that a 2-year just for this season. But there's still hope out there. There's still hope. We've always got to cling to that hope that things are going to get better because they're going to have to, and that we can get out there. It's going to be sooner rather than later. And the only way to do that is for us to continue to practice staying away from each other, continue to practice doing our part that we can to obey the people that are in the know, that are telling us what we need to do to shut this illness down, to prevent it from spreading and to keep people from dying. And I'm hoping as those numbers go down, the more we practice what they're telling us, the more those numbers go down, and it's shown in other countries, and it's shown in New York that distancing ourselves, that sheltering in place, or that staying at home, all that works. And so as the numbers come down, hopefully they'll open those trails sooner rather than later. Hopefully we'll get back out there with each other sooner rather than later, and hopefully then those numbers, particularly the death numbers, will start coming down. And my plans are this will be the last serious video I do, because I don't like to do serious videos. I'm not that serious a person most of the time. I pepper my speech with a little bit of humor all the time, so this is kind of difficult for me just to rein it in, but it is a serious subject, and I think it does need to be covered. But I want to give you that message of hope, and I want you to spread that out. I want you to share that with other people, not only people in the hiker community, but throughout society in general. But particularly in the hiker community, that we got hope, that things are going to get better, that we're going to get back out there on the trail. So one of the things you can do is, if you're a thru hiker that got off the trail, please produce those videos, please put them up. We want to see those. If you've already got some up or you've run out of material, then there was a really neat thing that Early Riser did the year after he got off the trail, and that was he came back to his old videos and he did voiceovers and talked about what he was going through at that particular time, and what was going through his head, and what he was thinking. And so it was really some thoughtful insight, and it was really good to see what was going through his head after he had had a chance to come back and look at it and think about it later on, and step back and give us what he was really thinking then. So that was pretty cool. I appreciate him doing that, and you can do the same thing. I think that's a unique way of doing it, and you can help us all learn from that, help us all realize that there is hope out there. And so I want to give you, before I leave you, I want to give you 3 quotes about hope that I came across as I was preparing for this video. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular, but he must take it because his conscience tells him it is right. And then there's every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. And finally, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Those were all by the Reverend Martin Luther King, a man who had hope for his community, who had hope from the world, that one day it would be a better place, and that was his dream. And that's my dream for you, is that you get this hope and you spread it. And as we're doing that, just remember, God bless you, God holds you in the palm of his hand, and God bless America. And I look forward to seeing you out here.